Welcome to Shine 309, presented by Fly Square Media. I'm your host, Dylan Elliott, and I'm super excited to be here today. This is the very first episode. We ran a couple betas to work out some kinks, but this is the first real deal. I got my first official guest here today. I'm super excited to introduce him. He is a Treasury Sales Officer at Prairie State Bank Trust. He's the Bloomington Pub Club Rotary Treasurer as well. He was nominated one of the 20 under 40. He has so much community involvement. He's an all-around good guy. I just vibed with Buddy whenever we first met, so I knew he would make a perfect first guest. So I'm super excited to introduce him. But before I get to that, the reason he's here today, not really, but he's a tornado survivor. And we're going to get into that. So with no further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Chad Hoffman.
Man, thank you so much. Can't believe it's episode 1.
Woo,
It's going to be incredible.
You should have seen the behind the leading up to this. I was nervous about my intro, but Chad put me at ease. So.
We're going to walk through it, man.
We're going to do this together,
Lucky
man.
number 1.
Oh, but yeah, I'm going to try not to corn it up and draw too much meta attention to the cameras and just talk to you, bro.
Yeah.
But, dude, I'm really glad you're here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That is one introduction, and it's been a busy year.
It sounds like it. So I want to hear more about this year, but I want to tap right in. Tell me about this tornado survival you went through. How did that go down?
You know, kind of mid-November 2013, just a lazy Sunday, just hanging out. At the time, I was living with my ex-wife and former roommate, so we were all just kind of hanging out, you know, enjoying the Sunday, getting ready for the work week. You know, tornado sirens start coming out. You know, just. I'm always one of those people that have to look at the storms and just like check it out, what's going on.
And I'm sorry to cut you off. Remind me,
sure.
where were you when this happened?
So I was living in an apartment. For those Washington residents, I'm sure there's not too many, but we lived kind of a block away from Central Middle School. 3-story apartment, living on the third floor up top.
Washington, Illinois. Yeah.
So a lot of local people will know kind of a notorious tornado for sure. But yeah, so we were just hanging out. My buddy, my roommate, went out drinking the night before, got home, you know, bright and early. I think he stumbled in around like 7 a.m. Watched a little bit of TV, decided to call it a day around 8:30 or so. So, you know, soon after, clouds rolling in, it's unseasonably warm. I think it was like 50 or something, kind of towards the mid to tail of November. Yeah, looking out the window, huge tornado just off in the distance. It's the first time that I think I've ever like seen the tornado, because, you know, you always hear the alarms go off and nothing ever happens. Same in Washington. I think in that area, there's a few more smaller towns that are pretty regular that get clipped or have to deal with that stuff. But, you know, it never came through.
If you had to guess, how far away was it?
Oh man, I think it was on the outside of town, so probably, you know, a good, 20 miles out, probably.
How big did it look off on the horizon?
It looked pretty big. It looked pretty big. You know, I think they clocked it as a F4. So, you know, definitely nothing to sneeze at for sure.
On the scale of tornadoes, I don't know anything about tornadoes. What's the F scale go to?
Me either. I think it goes from F1 to F5. Okay. I'm probably going to get corrected about that, but 4 is pretty big deal. But, you know, it was far enough out that you couldn't really gauge, you know, what direction it was headed towards. So, you know, being that far out, I was like, well, that's crazy, but I'm just going to sit here and watch it.
Ride it out.
And, you know, there's some people out on the streets, you know, clocking the same thing, just all looking off in the field, just like, oh, wow, that's crazy.
And remind me, what year was this?
This was 2013.
Okay, so cell phones were a thing? Was that cell phone video and the whole nine?
You know, I did not have my cell phone on me, unfortunately, but, you know, I recently had my manager send me this documentary over it, and there's a lot of crazy footage. Man, I wish I had.
So after the fact, there's a documentary about then that happened. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
you gotta.
I'll have to send that to you. So yeah, my ex-wife losing it. Like, we need to get downstairs. We got to get to the basement. We got to get out of here. I'm just like, it's not going to come towards us. It's fine. So she's freaking out. She's trying to wake up my passed out roommate. Time frame wise, it was a little closer to 11. So, he's been out for, a good, hour and a half, 2 hours. And he was just like, yeah, whatever. He like looked up. Nah, man, I don't care. So, I kind of reluctantly went to the laundry room downstairs in the basement just to, put her at ease. I think there was like a few other families down there kind of hunkering down. Pretty quiet, I've always heard like it sounds like a train's coming through, and, it was none of that. There was like a quick big gust of wind. It kind of blew open both doors, and, that's kind of it. So a few minutes go by after the windows blow open. I'm like, probably okay. I don't imagine it's just sitting on top of us right now. So peek my head up. Everything looks somewhat normal. I look up and I'm looking at the sky. So it blew the whole roof off the place. I'm like, oh man, my roommate's upstairs. Like, oh shit. So I'm hauling upstairs, pounding the door. I no socks on, just like, I think I threw on some Nike flats, and I'm trying to kick open a door that I can't budge because looking back, all of our furniture blew up against the door, so it was like sealed. I'm like freaking out, man. I'm like, this dude's dead. He's tossed out in the field next door. That's it. That's it for
thinking the worst, right?
For old boy. But thankfully, somehow, he told me he woke up as soon as like pretty much the walls were coming in, and somehow made it to the bathroom and like hunkered in there, and thank goodness he came out of it with like made like a scratch. Didn't even need stitches.
I've heard that when people have accidents drinking and driving, sometimes that when you're sober, you get scared.
So you tense up
and it hurts you. Yeah. And that when you're drunk, you ragdoll.
Oh,
so
yeah.
He just jumped in the tub and ragdolled.
He's good to go, man. No, it was crazy. And I, looking back on it, I can't really gauge like what actually happened because I was downstairs, but I don't think we got hit by the full force. I think it probably got close enough to where those winds tore things up a little bit and then just kept moving.
What was the neighborhood like? Like, I've seen tornadoes. You miss your neighbors,
right.
Hit your other neighbors, and 3 businesses down, it jumps around. Like, how was the damage?
Around us, not terrible, which is why I think, it was probably just it got close enough to kick up enough winds to tear stuff up. Because realistically, our apartment, it only lost our half of the upstairs, like walling and roofing, and then the back half was still like the roof was still in structure, and all of that was good.
When you went outside and looked, was it like a big structure and clearly half of it was ripped off and it was like crazy looking?
Oh yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, you could very much see like the back wall of my apartment, and then it pretty much like took all my stuff and evicted us. So all of my stuff was either like pushed up against the door or it was out front in the front yard. So
wow,
it was nuts.
So you were renting at the time?
Oh yeah.
Then how did insurance handle that?
We did not have renter's insurance.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I was very early 20s when that happened. I think I was like 21. So you don't really care. It's just like whatever. Like
my PlayStation.
Yeah, that's it. You got your TV, you got your Xbox, and your clothes. That's about all you got.
Any pets? Did you have any pets?
I had 2 guinea pigs at the time that mysteriously survived somehow.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
they were ragdolling it too.
They were, man. No, I had these. I bought they look like mock tree stumps. And they were like pretty sturdy plastic. So when this is terrible to say, but they were not the top.
The guinea pigs were in there like, I'm glad we got these.
So this is terrible, but they were not top priority at the time. No, so, I did go back the next day, just kind of like cleaning stuff, trying to get as much as we could. And I was checking on them and their pen was full of bricks. And I was like, oh, that's no good, but they survived.
What were their names?
Oh man.
Putting you on the spot, baby.
One was Skeeter and one was Jin Jin. And I did not name Jin Jin. Looking back, that's the goofiest name.
Shout out Skeeter and Jin Jin, tornado survivor guinea pigs.
We had to rehome those guys. My grandma, who we moved in with, she's not having the rodents in her basement. She's like, those got to go.
That's so funny.
they lived out their lives making some kid happy.
That's awesome. Well, man, like, I know so many people from so many walks of life. That's part of why I'm doing this, to have these fun conversations. But I don't know that I've ever met a tornado survivor.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. That was something that when we spoke that time that really stood out. I'm like, you survived a tornado? I want to put that on camera and hear about this.
For sure. You know, I think the whole town of Washington was lucky. At the time, I thought we had one death, but I think it turned out to eventually be 3. Which, for as much destruction that Washington went through, is incredible. So obviously any loss of life is too much, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, like, it could have been much worse.
Wow, that's crazy. And then was it one of those things that it was so traumatic and it was such a life event, like, you know, the date? You're like, oh, January 15th, it was awful, bro.
You know, I think I blocked most of the fine details out,
No,
surprisingly
I don't
enough.
put you on the spot.
But,
The reason I ask is that I worked in TV news for a little while. And this is bad for me. I wasn't there when it happened.
Sure.
I think it was the year after I started. Again, I don't remember. But they not celebrated, but annually they always talked about, like, the devastation of this tornado. It was somewhere in that community, and it was bad. Like, there were lives lost, and a lot of people's lives were ruined and uprooted, and just crossed my mind. That's the limited experience I've had with tornadoes is after the fact. I worked at a news station and they would reflect on it, and you lived it, and that's why.
I mean, it's not something I'm super caught up in. I was very fortunate to be able to recoup kind of most of my belongings, so I didn't really have too great of a loss. You know, everybody I knew made it out safe or were completely unaffected by it. So I mean, the specific date, it's terrible, but no, I can't remember. Can't remember which date it was. I do remember it was like 11:30 mid-morning, but the specific date, I'd have to Google it, man, because Google remembers.
Completely,
but,
Google remembers.
I do. Washington for sure rallied around it. They printed out their, Washington Strong T-shirts and.
No, right? You got to have the community support.
Oh, for sure.
And that'd be a good segue to get off this tornado topic. No, that's wild, and that's why I wanted to hear about that again and a couple of the details. And so how do you go from surviving a tornado in Washington to now you're the treasurer at a bank? What was that journey been like? Like, I'm curious.
That journey's been.
I like to know, like, what people are doing, right?
Yeah.
And then what got you here? Like, when you were a kid, were you interested in finance as a bank? You want to be the money man, or like you told me you played football? Like, what did you think you're going to be doing when you were a kid? And how did you wind up working at a bank?
Man, so the tornado's kind of like the peak of the iceberg as far as like my childhood craziness. You know, at an early age. Man, do we want to take it dark?
I don't mind. If it's part of your story and it's something that you don't mind sharing in an open platform, I don't know who's going to see this. It might be 12 people. It might be 12,000.
Yeah, we'll see. So kind of to take it back, I'm from divorced home. My parents split when I was like 3. Fast forward a few years later, unfortunately lost my mom. She's an alcoholic, had issues controlling that drink, so to speak, and
you could share some stories, man. I had a colorful childhood because my mom liked to drink too.
Yeah. Unfortunately it caught up with her. You can only have so many screwdrivers before your liver's like, yo, we got to talk.
Was that the cause? Why'd your mom pass away from?
She passed away from cirrhosis, so liver failure at the end of it. So that was kind of. And
how old were you?
I was almost 10. So today's her anniversary, her death anniversary. So it's this podcast was good timing, I usually don't talk about it.
It's all falling right into place. And I had a buddy that used to joke and say, this is where the healing starts.
This is it. No, it's been a long healing journey, but
I believe it.
I think all of that kind of formed me to be of service to others, no matter kind of what I'm doing. She passed away today, December 18th, 2001. So I was on the verge of being 10. So my birthday's in March. So
same age as my little boys.
Yeah. Wow. So I
can relate.
Late 9s. And then
late 9s.
Not
like
9.5, but ripe old age of 9 years old. I lost her at an early age. Thankfully, I had good family support. So both sets of grandparents, helped raise me. I mean, anyways, I had working parents, so they stepped in and cared for me.
So was your dad out of the picture then? Your parents got a divorce? You were being raised by your mom who drank?
Split custody. So, I saw my dad on the weekends, and he's, we'll get there. Great man, just the relationship just wasn't working out. I think my mom got into some stuff, obviously the drinking. And
if you don't want to get into any of that, you're like, where am I taking this?
Yeah, right?
Thanks, Dylan.
We'll keep it moving, but there's a few key points in my life that I think helped shape and move me in a certain direction. So once she passed, ended up moving full time with my dad in Washington. So he worked a lot, but super supportive, salt of the earth, old school dude.
What industry was he in? What did he do for a living?
He also had a fun kind of career trajectory. So he started off in the food industry. So he was a food and beverage director for a bit, managed a couple restaurants, spent a little bit of time in New York before, he settled down.
NYC?
NYC.
Nice.
He went out there to open up a Chi-Chi's Mexican restaurant, managed that for a bit, and then eventually, came back to the Illinois area. I think he opened up another one out here and managed that for a bit. And then I think from there he went to Jumer's, another local legend in the Peoria area. They have this cool German, it's closed now, but they have a cool German themed, like medieval castle vibe out there.
Don't we have a hotel as Jumer's?
We do.
Did
the
it rebrand?
Chateau.
It rebranded Chateau, right?
Yeah, so same, it was at the time, same family.
Is that a chain or is it just family local? There's 2 or 3 of them? Or
It used to be family owned, and I think they had, I'm probably wrong about this. To my knowledge, there's 3. There's one in Champaign, Bloomington, Peoria. I'm sure they've had a few others since then. But Bloomington was kind of under the same family ownership. And then Mr. Jumer's passed away, and I think they just liquidated everything. So anyways, he worked there for a little bit and then kind of stayed in the restaurant realm, but decided he wanted to get his CDL and started driving. So he'd deliver restaurant goods, food, napkins, silver, all that good stuff.
So was that a 9 to 5, or was he like on the road? He would leave, and then young Chad was left to his own devices.
Yes. So he ended up meeting my stepmom, and then they had a few kids of their own. So that's kind of where we were just talking before this about having children, since I am a proud father, but we'll get there. I am 8 years older than my next sibling. So they had 3 kids of their own. He would pretty much, when he got on at Cisco, he had a weird, all of that stuff seniority-based routing. So, he would leave Washington, Illinois, go to Lincoln, Illinois, which is probably like 30 minutes out, just to get in his truck and then go up to Chicago area and deliver around up there. So, a lot of nights on the road. He wasn't home super often, but, when he was, super connected with all of us, great dude. Great guy.
That was what I asked about the trucking thing. So I know that's an interesting industry with so many variations. You could be the local guy, you could be the sub-local, or you can literally be national. I got a buddy that I've known since high school that there's a meme that came out and it shows like 40 or 50 cities. Like, how many have you been to? Yeah. He says he's been to every single one except for Seattle. And I'm like, oh, he's out there on the road. I'm like, that's really cool.
That's cool. Yeah, no, he was more local, so... I think the farthest he went was Chicago area, which, I mean, is far enough when you're driving a big old tractor trailer dealing with that traffic. That's kind of what he did. Had 2 sisters and a brother. Where was I going with that? I spent pretty much from 10 to 21 in Washington area, doing the high school thing, grade school thing.
You said you played football in high school.
I played a little bit.
Which years?
So, I started in JFL, which is kind of our youth league.
Yeah, my little boy did JFL.
So I played that pretty much for 4 or 5 years. Pretty much started in Pee Wees, which is fully padded up tackle football. And then I made it to through my freshman year in Washington. Going into my sophomore year, I completely blew my knee out.
Oh,
So it wasn't even a cool story, which is really a shame because it was Hell Week, so it was our conditioning 2-a-days in the lead up to the season. And we were doing this it's called the dot drill. So basically it's this rubber mat that has 5 dots on it. It looks just like the 5 side on a die. And you do different like jump variations. And I was doing this jump variation and I heard click, click. And come to find out, chipped I think 3-centimeter chunk of my femur off.
oh wow.
And I was...
Did the click hurt, or was it just like, oh, that's interesting, and then it hurt?
That was uncomfortable. Yeah, it was just a weird, like, shifting feeling, and then I went to sit down on the weight bench, and that piece kind of moved in a way. I was like, oh, that didn't feel good, but that's probably fine,
that
right?
That 3.5 inch piece moved.
It's really gross, so apologies to the listeners on that one, but yeah, being a tough 15-year-old dum-dum, decided to man up, play through it for a few weeks. And it just got to a point where I couldn't even walk up the stairs. So we were like, yeah, we should probably get this looked at. And that led to a few surgeries.
Dang. You got some crazy scars, or that?
I have too many scars.
How many surgeries did you have?
At the time I had 2. So they went in, put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And then had a pretty bad reaction. I think they put like some Kevlar over the knee to make sure nothing came undone. And I had a bad reaction to the fiber stitching in it. Wow. So my knee, like I woke up one morning and I had like a little sore and you could see a little fiber stitch hanging out there. I'm like, well, that's good. Here we go again. So then they had to go in, take all that stuff out, close me back up. So that was 2 surgeries then, and then had 2 more surgeries recently because it's just riddled with arthritis from not taking care of it. So
that's terrible. All
that being said, I did not finish my high school career in football.
That's so unfortunate.
It's kind of like, you know what? I think I'm done. That was like the most intense thing I've ever been through at the time. Didn't want to do it again, but eventually went back, played some semi-pro football for a few years to kind of scratch.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Where was that at?
It's in Peoria. So they
Tornado Survivor. I didn't put that as an accolade. He was a semi-pro football player. That's really cool.
That title is way too extra. It's really a rec league, and we pay to play and all that stuff. But as long as you bring on real officials, it's regulated. So there's an 8-man league called MA8FL, so it's got pretty much a few local teams in the Peoria area.
When you say 8-man, is that like Iron Man? You going offense and defense?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
that's hardcore.
instead of 11 players on the field, you only have 8. It's kind of similar to arena ball. So the field's a little smaller, a little more condensed, faster paced. But
so when you're doing that, is it sheerly recreation, or do you have like any ideas of like maybe I can get picked up or be a walk-on? The Bears need this.
Yeah, right. I think the idea at the time was getting picked up by a college, or I don't think arena would be like your best bet. For me, I had no ideas of going pro by any means. I just wanted to, relive what I missed out. But there's quite a few people on the team I think that got picked up, or at least were able to try out for college ball. Got some scholarships that way, so it's good. It's a good time.
That is cool.
Good time.
Well, so tornado survivor. We rewound a little situation with your dad. Where did you? Did you go to college?
I did not go to college. Okay. I took some classes after high school at ICC, so it's East Peoria, just a little community college out there. Spent, probably a year and a half just kicking up mud, just not really sure what I wanted to do.
Was it a gap year?
No, I didn't.
You know what a gap year is?
I know what a gap year is, but my parents weren't having that nonsense. They're like, if you take a gap year, you're never going back. So I begrudgingly went back. And then, just the thought of paying money to retake classes I just took in high school was just your gen eds. I was like, I can't do this.
No, right. That was part of why I went in the military. One, I had no direction. People I knew were making bad decisions. I was like, I need to step away from this. And it was hard after 12, 13 years of high school and regular school. I mean, you want me to sign up for more of this?
Yeah,
like,
right?
I need a break. I need a change.
Oh, and you got to pay for it?
And you got to go into debt for it,
Yeah.
right? And then I was in a much better position because when I reapproached school, I was 8 years older. I had a lot of life under my belt. And I took it way too serious. Yeah. And like, I was like, my straight A's and this fancy degree with a good GPA is going to answer all of my prayers and give me all the jobs and every opportunity. Because look I can recite information that I learned about.
It's a beautiful thing.
And it was good, but it wasn't in my industry. That wasn't what's going to get you paid and get you those opportunities.
Yeah.
In my school, there was MCM, Military Camera Militia, or something. It was a student group.
Oh, wow.
And so I was 8 years removed. I was living at home with my girlfriend and our cats. So when I got out of school, I would go home and I would do all the reading, and I was focused on getting those straight A's.
Yeah.
And the tricky part about that is it's a class. There's 25 of y'all. They'll be like, at random, Dylan, you, Susie, and Jimmy, or you're in a group. Or it'd be like, pick your groups. I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
I was transferred in with 3 semesters left to go, and all these kids knew each other, so they all partnered up as cliquey. And I'm like, I get with the 3 other kids that don't know anybody.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, all right, guys, we got to make this the best. I need that A for that degree. And I really thought leaning on that. I mean, I had my little portfolio, and I was freelancing and doing music videos and a few things on the side. I was working at a news station, so I was like, I'm getting professional experience. I'm getting production experience, and I got my straight A's with my grades. Right? None of that mattered at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The biggest part that mattered, or the big takeaway I got, or what I saw my peers doing that mattered more, was that networking.
Exactly.
Those kids.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
It's what you know and who you know.
Yeah.
But no, them kids in MCM, I keep wanting to say MCF. It's an organization I rock with. The kids in MCM, they were doing the big productions.
Yeah.
They were the ones that were all day, all night, all weekend. Like, oh, Jimmy's doing the big spaceship. They would be in there working on his set because they want Jimmy's production to be the best. They didn't give a damn about their classes.
Right.
These kids are making C's and D's, just getting by, so mom and dad weren't mad at them for wasting their money. And they were trying to help Jimmy's production be the best it could.
Oh yeah.
So they were there burning the midnight oil, and like really building bonds, building their network, getting solid production experience. And then when Jimmy went out to LA, I know Susie from MCM.
That's
so
awesome.
He got Susie a job.
Yeah.
When Dylan's out here literally doing what everybody else is doing, Craigslist was popping.
Yeah.
So I'd be on Craigslist like, ooh, an opportunity came up. I reach out, I got a few interviews, and I got a couple opportunities in LA, but it wasn't sustainable.
Sure.
I wasn't with Jimmy and Susie from school over there getting on in productions, and I was like, this just isn't shaking out the way I thought it would. And prior to that, I knew people that went to LA, so I'm like, tell me about it. Like, they make excuses. Everything's far away. Everything's overpriced. Yeah. You got to know people. And I'm like, you're making excuses. If you wanted it to work, you can make it work.
Oh, for sure.
I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
Man, I was living in an apartment, and I was spending $500 a month for my lease for my one room I was sharing with these other guys. And one of my roommates worked at LA Fitness, and he was a great guy. He was an interesting cat, and he got me an interview out there, and I was like, all right, to stay in LA, I might try this. So I sat down for the interview, and it's a sales position. The guy he was cool. He's an old smooth cat. He was like, this sales job bought me that Cadillac in the parking lot. It put 3 kids through college, and he hyped up the sales position. He's like, basically, it's sales. I didn't know much about sales. Then he's like, you gotta hit the ground. Oh wait, in a second, I'm gonna have to do something technical. This is a long story. Man, I gotta check that camera. Basically, it was a sales position, and he's like, you got to go outside on the sidewalk and talk to 300 people in a day. You might get one sale.
Ooh,
and I was like, that's gonna be
those are
hard.
good numbers.
And that was just loose numbers, whatever.
Right.
But I know about sales. You gotta get all those 100 no's for the one yes, and it's sales. Sales is so good for building character, learning sales. There's a lot of upside to it.
For sure.
But at the time, I wasn't hearing. I wanted production experience, and then I was considering doing it just to stay in LA.
Yeah.
But the deal breaker was he wanted me to shave my beard. Gotta be clean cut.
Yeah, no,
I was
we
in
can't
the
have that.
army. I was in the army 8 years, and part of the reason I hated it is that I didn't go special forces or nothing cool.
Sure.
I couldn't rock a beard. I got my little Elliot chin, baby. I gotta have all this beard going on, and I was like, no, I refuse. I was like, I'm not changing my physical appearance for a job I don't want.
Yeah, exactly.
To stay here.
Oh yeah.
And then so I packed up and went back home to my News 3 job. So I was still in my industry. I was back to what I knew. I enjoyed it, and I could still freelance and build this fly square thing. And so man, back to what got you into banking, Chad?
So kind of what brought me to Bloomington. So partially
it's always about a girl.
It's all it actually was. Funny enough, the tornado helped. So where was I? So April 2013, unfortunately lost my dad as well.
What year was that?
2013.
I'm
So
sorry
it
to hear
was the April before that tornado hit. So it was a good year for me. Lost him, just had heart failure. Went to work and didn't come home. That one hit pretty hard. Just, 21, you're just starting to get to that relationship with your dad where it's not father son. It's a little bit more, a little bit more fun. A little more, helping you like fix your sink because, you don't want to let your landlords know that you blew out your garbage disposal. So yeah, unfortunately lost him. The tornado happened. Didn't really have anything keeping me in the Washington area. So my ex-wife got on at State Farm, like most Bloomingtonites here.
I said you can't close your eyes and throw a rock without hitting a farmer.
Oh, you'll hit a farmer for sure. You might hit two. So yeah, she got on there, and she was making a decent living. So obviously it made sense to get closer to Bloomington. So 2014 moved out here. I worked a long time for my step uncle. We did mobile pressure washing. So we went to different dealerships, washed all the cars on the lots. We'd, wash houses, cement, all of that stuff. The kind of the best part of that was that was like my college experience. So I was learning from him kind of, how to interact with people.
Was your uncle your dad's brother or your mom's brother?
No, it was my stepmom's brother. Okay. So, our brother-in-law, I should say.
Does he still do the pressure washing?
I think so.
Nice.
I think so. We didn't have the cleanest separation when I cut ties there, but I think he's still doing the thing. But yeah, I got to learn a lot from him on how to interact with people, how to do business, how to not do business. There's some things in there that weren't great, but it was a great introductory to the workforce. I really found my work ethic kind of after school. Just because you have ADHD doesn't mean you're stupid.
Not at all.
So book learning's not for everybody, and I quickly gathered that I enjoyed whatever it is. As long as it's not reading a book, we're good.
That's funny you say that. I've seen everyone literally learns different.
Oh yeah.
And then at different rates too, especially you'll
sure.
see that with a kid.
Oh, definitely.
When you're a young person and you're surrounded by other young person, you're in your peer group, and then like there's the little alphas, there's the different kids who are like the popular kid or the cool kid or like you seem like the real smart kid, and you see it one way. But when you're an adult and then you see all these little people, it's crazy. When I go to the school, so I got a 9-year-old, and at 9 years old, there's the super immature, just seems like a little kid 9-year-old, all the way to the young man 9-year-old who's got a mustache already, and you're like everywhere in between, and it's just crazy. And then I do reflect on that for myself. I was a bit of a late bloomer. I was the little kid, and then you like associate with the other little, like us little guys got to stick together. And I remember being in like junior high, and then you're becoming a young man. Some of these dudes got full armpit hairs and mustaches, and then I'm still like a little boy over here, and then you're trying to holler at the same girls, and of course the girls want the more mature guys, and it's like, bro, come on. But then now that I'm in my young 40s, I'm like, look at how some of these dudes have aged.
Oh yeah,
I'm glad I was the late bloomer because I still feel like I'm in my prime, baby. But
they peaked in high school.
Exactly. No, but and it's weird how humans just all develop at different rates, and we all learn differently, and then. It's just interesting when you said that. It made me think of that tangent.
Oh, for sure. Our current schooling structure doesn't really, help out everybody. So, it's kind of one size fits all approach. Public schooling, it's great.
No, it's tricky. So part of it's good though, because like that's sometimes you'll get thrown into that in the workforce.
Oh,
like you're not always going to be around like-minded people and peers in a great environment.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes there's adversity, and sometimes it's challenging. And then if you live in a bubble, then you get put in those hard situations when you're older.
You don't know what to do.
You're going to fold like a flimsy chair. And sometimes you need that experience early on, I think.
Definitely. So hop back into it. I didn't really find myself until I started working full time. Spent probably too much time there. Wish I did other things, but took everything I could, and then kind of had to restart. So once I moved to Bloomington, I got tired of baking. It's 45 minutes from here to Washington, Illinois, and then kind of the same deal. You hop in a truck and you drive all over the Peoria area, washing cars all day, and then get done at sundown, and then you got to drive another 45 minutes home. So got tired of doing that. Wanted something else. So tried a few things here and there. Tried to get on a State Farm. I thought managing a fleet of pressure washers would carry a lot more weight than it would have, but didn't go as far, so kind of had to eat some humble pie and kind of start all over again.
Did you try to get on at the call center?
Yeah.
That was I was straight out the Army. So me and a buddy joined at the same time. I think we thought we were going to do like the buddy program.
Right.
That we'd go through the military together. Well, he had one job, so he had to go train in one place.
Sure.
I had another job, so we did not.
Oh, geez.
He wound up in Colorado. And then 2 years later, though, and I was in North Carolina.
Yeah.
2 years later, he was in North Carolina with me, which was cool. But I was a single soldier in the barracks. He was a married soldier on post housing with his wife and their little boy. And so I used to go over there and party with them all the time. And man, you said something that made me think of something, and I lost it. What did you just say?
Gone. I don't even remember
now.
It's
cameras
gone.
around me. Yeah. Cracked under pressure. I folded like that cheap chair I just talked about.
Dang it.
I had a point I was going to make there. I forgot.
Gosh.
That's quite all right. We're going to edit that out.
No.
It's natural. It's real, baby. That's how we go.
Just to set the record straight, I'm 0 for 3 for State Farm applications.
That was what it was. No, thank you. Rewind me. I want to come back to you and State Farm.
Yeah.
That was what it was. So we both joined for 4 years. We spent the last 2 years together at Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
And then he got out, and then they got on, him and his wife both got on at State Farm. And then so I stayed on for another overlapping 4-year term. So I got just under 8 years before I got out.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of fun stories with that, boy. That's another time. When I got out, I'm from this community.
Yeah.
You can make a good living if you play the State Farm game.
For sure.
And I was like, I'm going to get my foot in the door and try State Farm out. So I was like, military experience. They're going to hire me. It's a call center.
Yeah.
And both of them, two of my very good friends that I've known for a decade plus at the time, whatever it was, were both at State Farm. So they kind of gave me the pep talk beforehand. Like when you go in, they do the little test. Anyway, they gave me some advice.
Yeah.
And I made it through the initial process, and I even got to go in and I saw like I don't even know, Corporate South or something.
Right, yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to get this job.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And it wasn't crushing like, I had a passion about insurance. Sure. But I was fresh out of the Army and I was going to school and I was like, my friends are successful in insurance. I'm going to do this while I'm going to school and figuring out what I'm going to do or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I think they have tuition reimbursement. I saw a lot of upside to it. I really thought I might be a farmer. And I was like, I can't even get on at the call center. Like, you got to read a script or I'm not downplaying that. And I know it's a grind. I actually got on at a call center in Chicago and I didn't last more than a couple of weeks. Like, that is not for me. You see my energy and you see the way I operate. I can't sit in a cubicle and do this.
There's no way you're shoving you in a cubicle with a phone. And
it was tricky. And then the thing about it was, in that job, it's funny because they train you to do it. And I think I got it. I was like, okay, I'm good enough. Put me on the floor. And then before you're live, you got to sit and job shadow somebody else, and you can ask them any questions. They make sure you're good, right? And then it was a sales thing. You're like pitching people college tuition or college information, and then if they say yes, you send them a bunch of stuff. And I don't remember exactly how it went down, but there was a way you did it, and it was structured that you're supposed to do it. And you have numbers. They want to make sure that you're doing it the right way, or if you do it this way, like there's different ways they segmented it. And there was a way that you could do it that was bogus, that you could bypass it, and you were tricking the numbers. And they told you about it, and they said, don't do that. So we catch you, you'll get in trouble. So then I guess I didn't have as good of an understanding as I thought. I didn't do it deliberately. So then when I sat down with my job shadow guy, he trained me to do it this way. So then when I was finally on the floor alone myself, I did it the way the job shadow kid taught me. He was doing it the bogus way.
Yeah, he was.
And then I was doing what he showed me. And then they called me in the office. They're like, yeah, Dylan, we got to talk to you about your numbers. It was like on week 2 and I'm still brand new, don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, what's up?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I did the wrong thing and I'm sitting there like, oh, I don't want to get in trouble for doing the wrong thing. I genuinely, I'm so naive. I thought I was doing great, and they were getting ready to like give me praise.
Yeah.
And it turned into
Actually.
they flipped it on me, and then I was like, I went into defensive mode, like, oh wait, I'm doing the wrong thing, and then like I'm from the streets.
Yeah.
I'm throwing him under the bus and be like, well, snitching on him. He told me to do it this way. I was like, that was how I thought I was supposed to do it.
Oh yeah.
And it was literally that they doubted my integrity. I was so mad.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not coming back and looking these people in the face again when you're going to doubt my integrity. And like, really, I get it from their managerial point of view. Like, you're doing the wrong thing, bro. We got to correct you and you got to move forward. I could have stayed on. I could have played their game and did that and kept that job. But I guess I took it too personally. Like, don't doubt my integrity when I don't know what I'm doing. And part of it hurt my feelings. I felt like a fool because I was like, they're gonna give me praise. I'm killing it out here. And they reprimanded me, and I was so offended by it. I was like,
that's 100%.
I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get a camera and get money. No. But so I tried the call center thing, but it didn't work out. And
and I am so glad it didn't work out for me either, because man, that is a tough job. Both my ex-wife and current wife, they put time in different call centers too. My current wife did the collections game for a while, and that is a soul-crushing job. And she's been called every foul name under the book. And the phone thing is not for me, so I had to pivot a little bit. Got turned down at State Farm. I left without having something lined up, which is crazy for someone that turned in like a 4-week notice. So, I was churning and burning applications. I think I spent one day at Owen's Nursery, and that wasn't for me either. So I thought I was going to be working with some cool plants in a greenhouse, and they took me in this back room in a factory to back up seeds. No one back there spoke any English, by the way.
My lady worked at Owens for a while I was going to school here in Bloomington.
She must have made it to the front of the house.
No, she was bagging seeds.
Was she?
She's dyslexic, and sometimes something similar to my call center experience. Something about the numbers. She would mix something up, and she's like, it was frustrating for her.
I believe it.
So we have experience with Owens Nursery too.
That is great. Great business, but working there, I worked there for like 4 hours. We cut for lunch and I did not go back. So I was out, I had to start all over again. Eventually made my way into Four Seasons Health Club here in town.
Do you know Dewey Drollinger?
I do. He's a cool dude.
Yeah. Dewey's good.
Shout
out Dewey. Dewey's
way
to
go,
buddy.
Dewey. He probably does not remember me. I think we worked. So how they did it, you picked, I think it was like a 3-hour shift at a time, and he worked like opening most days. So I like just missed him. I know him in passing. I know he's in your neck of the woods with the photography and stuff. He's doing some cool stuff. But yeah, I was a towel boy for probably a year or two, and tried to make the most of it. But you're living in Bloomington. I think they weren't paying a whole lot, obviously, when you're just a towel boy. So tried to make the most of that, and then eventually made my way to Denver Mattress, and that's kind of another area where I found a lot about myself. So started in the warehouse, enjoyed that aspect of it, was in a lot better shape then than I am now, just moving mattresses around all day. Got to kind of watch and shadow the sales aspect of it and the customer service portion of it. And I just latched to that for sure.
Nice.
So,
how does slinging those mattresses work the knee?
You live with it. You got your good days and your bad days.
That's rough. Does the weather affect it?
It really does.
Because of the arthritis?
Oh, yeah.
We were airborne paratroopers, and that very same buddy that I mentioned, he has disability from the Army for arthritis in his knees.
Yeah, it's no joke, man. Especially the week we're having this week, it's been crazy. Just Illinois is playing games this week. It went from like
that's rough though because you're still
50
the weather's always crazy here.
Nuts.
But that sucks though because you're still in the grand scheme of things pretty young.
Oh yeah,
that's
for sure.
Giving you challenges now.
Sorry
for your troubles, Chad.
It is not a good outlook on what's going to happen with my knee here in the near future. It's pretty much write it out as long as you can, and then they'll eventually throw a new knee in there, and I'll
maybe with AI, because I hear that they do a lot of medicine or a lot of I don't want to speak on things I don't know about, but they do modeling to project future whatevers, and I guess AI with data can really pinpoint some modeling, so maybe they'll dial it in and they'll give you a new bionic knee.
Let's hope so. Hopefully
I hope
within
so
the next 10 years that goes a long way, but
think you
We'll
will.
see.
We're gonna reflect on this. Like I told
Yeah,
you,
there we
got
go.
the bionic AI knee. Look at
I'm
you
just
now.
gonna be a cyborg, just waist down, just replace it all. So yeah, back to the Denver mattress chapter of my life.
How long were you there for?
I was there for I think about 4.5 years. Um, did pretty much everything under the sun there. Started in the warehouse, got a good understanding of like inventory. Um, all the physical aspect of it was cool because I was mid-20s, working out pretty regularly. Enjoyed the physical aspect of it. But through watching all the different salespeople, got a pretty good feeling that I think I could make something of myself in that regards, because I mean, sales doesn't always have the most shiny reputation. I think
It builds so much character.
It really does.
Like if you study any of those guys like Zig Ziglar or any of these, you get so many no's, and like you learn how to navigate conversations in a way. That's what I have you read Jeffrey Gitomer's Little Red Book of Selling?
I have it, and I
think
started
pitched
it.
that.
You did pitch it.
And you're like, this is boring and it's garbage, Dylan. I'm not wasting my time with it.
No, it is a great book, but I've got a 3-year-old at home, so the time to read is not right now.
One thing I think about sales is like when you go and talk to a car salesman,
Yep.
or the reason I say this is Jeffrey Gitomer says like nobody likes to be sold, but everyone likes to buy.
Right.
And when I see right through your sales pitch, I'm like, bro, like don't sell me like I'm a
That's
sucker,
it.
and it makes me mad and standoffish. But I realize like when you're in a sales position, you have that conversation all day long.
Oh, yeah.
When you have your A, B, C, D, and E pitches, you're ready for those X, Y, Z, elemental
for
P
sure.
rebuttals, and then you already got QRSTUP. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? You have your rebuttals to their rebuttals already ready. Not that they're rehearsed, but you've had this
They're ready.
conversation
Oh, yeah.
100 times. You know what you're doing versus when it's brand new.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's similar to me with business with Fly Square. Like when I joined the Chamber of Commerce, I didn't have my elevator pitch down.
Sure.
I didn't know how to sit across from somebody and tell you how what I do for a living can bring you value.
Oh, yeah.
And like I'm still dialing that in and getting better at it.
You and me both, brother.
No, yeah, it's part of the game. But like when you're new to it, it's tricky. And then like when you talk to a seasoned salesperson, super seasoned, make it conversational, and they let you know, like they let you draw your own conclusions. You're like, I need this guy and what he's selling. Douchey or bad salespeople will play that game X, Y, and Z, and like nobody wants to hear that crap.
Nobody.
But
Nobody.
just back to my original point though is that seasoned salespeople have those conversations on the daily. When you're just the consumer and you're new to a space, you don't know what you're walking into, and then so it's just like anything, you learn through repetition.
Exactly. And just because some person does it one way, it might not work for you. So I mean, getting to watch the different salespeople on the floor, I was able to kind of pick and choose, before I got unleashed, so to speak. But I had the store manager there, one of my best friends in the world. Shout out to Matt.
That's always helpful. It's great whenever your boss or somebody overuse a buddy.
yeah.
That was me at News. Our director became a close friend of mine, and he kind of ran the floor. And like when I'd make a mistake, he'd pull me aside afterwards and like he just bring it to my attention. I know I'm already knowing. He wasn't mean about it. He didn't rub my face in it. He just like when I say move camera 2, do up to bam. Like he would just let me know, and I'm like, gotcha.
That's the way to do it.
And
That's
like
the way to do
right?
it,
Yeah. Don't be disparaging or don't hurt anyone. Like not to be soft about it, but there's a right way and a wrong way to build team and to correct somebody.
Oh yeah. So with him, he sells 100% on his personality. Like people are just drawn towards this man like you would not believe. He could know zero about mattresses and he'd still make a killing. So a lot of what he does can't be taught. So I was like, well, I do have I have an okay personality. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've got a little bit of charm in the tanks, but not nearly as much as this man. He'd literally take the grumpiest people and they'd be best friends after, walking the floor, looking at mattresses. This is amazing to watch. And then, watching some other people that were less charismatic, more, this mattress has this many coils, it's made out of this, blah, blah, blah. Like they've got the text down, the technology of the mattress down and the specs and all of that good stuff. So, trying to piece together, like, what's Chad going to be? To try to make a blended approach because, everybody's different. All the customers are different too. So, my whole thing was, I want to sell like I want to be sold to. So I don't want to be some like reading off a script like, oh, hey, I'm a robot, look at me. Or, I don't want to be a used car salesman and try to do cheap tricks and, try to push people into stuff they don't really need. So thankfully I was able to kind of play that game long enough, figure myself out. Learned a lot at Denver Mattress. At the kind of the end there, had to eat some humble pie again. Got myself into a little bit of trouble. In my time there, I got divorced, and that mixed with this newfound confidence I was getting, I had a reign of terror with the ladies. So that caught up to me. Denver Mattress has like a strict, hey, you can't date people here. Like if we find out, you're out. So there's some inappropriate jokes there somewhere, right? But I'm gonna leave those in my back pocket. Keep it safe. So I found love in the wrong places. I ended up like getting into this weird triangle with two gals there, and it came to fruition, and they fired me. So, I mean, the good thing is, that was a real, like, after everything I've been through, that was probably one of the darker moments of just, like, really being the accountability portion of it and just looking at myself like, dude, what are you doing, man? Real low point, never been fired before, wasn't happy with the person I was becoming. So, took a good long look in the mirror after that. Was able to repair the relationship with one of the ladies, my now wife.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You were in a love triangle and you married one of them?
She shot all kudos to her. We were able to work through a lot of the stuff. I certainly don't deserve the grace that she gave me.
Well, good for you and good for her. That means she really loves you, bro.
Likewise, she's the best, and I wouldn't be here without her. She's the one, man. When she checked all the boxes. I was just a stupid young man. I got married probably way too early. I think the first marriage, I was probably like 22. Way too early. So I certainly recommend, live in your 20s, experiencing have fun with your life. I think part of, the trauma I went through with having to grow up super fast with, losing parents early on. You're just ready to be grown, I guess. So.
No, that's fine. And that's me and my lady. She has a little brother that's 15 years younger than us.
Yeah.
And so he's grown. He's in his mid-20s and he's doing his thing.
Mid-20s isn't grown.
No, exactly right. Like that frontal lobe might be developed, but
barely.
That's funny you say that. And no, that's there's definitely like we're compared to my 9-year-old, like he's an adult, and then we're older adults.
Oh yeah.
But then like there's just a generation gap there. You grew up on different movies, different music, different technology, and then exactly what you're saying. Like he already was once married, and then it didn't work out, and now he's exploring life in a new chapter. And then when we talk to young couples, one is funny when they're like, "Oh, I want 6 kids."
Ooh.
Why don't you start with one,
right?
and then see what happens? Or then whenever there's another family member in our circle, they're a young couple, and we just saw them over the holidays, over Thanksgiving, and they're like, man, every time we get together on his side of the family, they're like, when are you going to bring us babies? They're babies, they're young, they're 18 and 19, they're kids living together, they're the sweetest little couple, we enjoy their company, they're great, we have a good time talking to them.
Yeah.
But then like it was like the family was all talking. I leaned into Buddy, I said, F what anybody says. Do what works for you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, sincerely, do not let them external pressures like, we got to have babies. And then I want to encourage, like, if y'all want to have babies, have babies.
Oh, yeah.
There's an upside to that because then once they're grown, you can enjoy your 40s.
Oh, for sure.
Or if you wait till later, then in your 40s, you got little people. There's pros and cons to it. I am glad I waited till later in life to have a kid. I was so irresponsible when I was younger.
Same.
Maybe it would have made me more responsible, or maybe I would have stayed just as reckless and ruined that little person's life.
Yeah.
And that's why I say with my business now, I'm like, I wish I would have done this sooner.
Right.
I have so much freedom. I have so much fun. I love what I'm doing. Wait. I wasn't responsible enough for the freedom I have. Yesterday at 2 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning, I went to a movie. I deserved it because I just came off a hard week. I just finished a big project. I was like, I'm gonna go do this for myself. But like in my 20s, I wasn't responsible enough for the freedom that I have now.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing I told them about kids. They're like, oh, everybody's saying we should have kids. I was like, again, that's why I was like, F what anyone says, do what works for you. Like, if you want to have kids, do that. But like, I always encourage couples, just like you said, wait to have kids.
You should
enjoy at least 3 to 5 to 8 to 10. Enjoy a decade together before you. That's a constant responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
That's a constant. I don't want to. You got to spend money on them little guys, and so if you want to do that early, do it because then you can enjoy your 40s in a different way. But enjoy each other before you dive into the family.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I don't think because we had Nolan. I had just hit 30, and I don't think I would have been, anywhere near ready before that. So yeah, enjoy your 20s. Kids can wait. Don't wait too long. It's funny you say that because I'm like, I always think, where am I going to be at in 18 years?
Why 18 years?
Because that's how long you got this kid for. So
oh, no, okay, yeah. Why 18 years? Okay,
no, the little dude can stay as long as he's being productive human. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, I've got older parents and, there's always kind of that mortality thing in the back of your head. I guess that's just my darker perspective, like... Man,
no, I think that's great. And I think about that on the daily. I have a finite amount of time, and those times I'm being lazy or I'm staring at the TV. I recently ran the numbers. 2 hours a day, every day, is a month of your life. So when I look at my phone, I spend 3 to 4 hours a day on my phone.
Yeah.
That is 2 months of my life. Literally. That's not counting the 6 to 8 I sleep a night, which is another 3 to 4 months of your life. If I'm spending 2 hours a day on my phone, that is a month of my life, every waking hour of it. Can you imagine that if there's a camera on you nonstop? That if 2 hours a day you're on your phone, that means 1 out of 12 months of the year you're doing this.
Yeah.
And I do that. On average, I don't even want to look right now. I bet you I'm averaging 3 to 4 hours a day on my phone, which is 2 months of my life. That is incredible.
That's hard to hear, man.
Keep that in mind, that perspective. And Gary Vaynerchuk says that. He always keeps that perspective in mind. Like you're going to die. This is a finite amount of time to do whatever you want to do. And it goes so much faster than you think.
100%.
Like I'm in my 40s and I still feel like I'm 20, but I'm not.
Especially when kids enter the scene, it just ramps up.
The kids. And I'm past my half-life, and that's terrifying. It's part of why I'm doing this. Legacy. I want to leave something behind.
Man, kids and stuff. We're all over the place.
That was good. I like this conversational. So, where is Denver Mattress?
So it is on the north end of Veterans. So it's part of a furniture.
So it's in town?
Yeah.
There's a furniture store over by Giordano's or something, and we joke. We're like, it's a mob front for laundering money.
It could very well be.
It's been there for a decade. I don't know how long it's been there. It's been there forever, and we're like, there's never any cars in the driveway, and like they're still clearly paying rent.
What is that, Lazy Boy, I think?
Maybe, yeah, that Lazy Boy it's a mob racket. Lazy Boy, I'm on to you.
Wink. Yeah, they're on the north end of town. They're actually national company, family owned. Loved working there, great people. But yeah, anyways, so kind of after that huge humble pie, really took a good look in, like, man, what are you about? Because you're clearly not living up to where you need to be at. So what took me into banking was actually just, it wasn't intentional. It was just shooting applications out in the breeze. Had to find something. Kind of what I learned through Denver Mattress is as long as I love helping people with problems, I love being of service to these people. At Denver, they came in like, yo, I've got this 20-year-old mattress. My back hurts. I don't sleep. I'm like, well, let's fix that for you. And then they'd come in like a few months later to pick up a pillow or whatever, and you know what? They love that mattress, or they hate it, and we work through it again.
I'm gonna talk to you offline. We have a mattress we've had for over 10 years. Love it. It's one of those like cushiony tops. I saw a commercial when I was a kid. They set a bowling pin on the corner, and they jump up and down on it. And that bowling pin just sits there, solid. Yeah. I think it's a glass of water, a glass of coffee. Like, don't spill it. And I was so impressed. His bed was like that. You could set something on the end and jump up and down. I'm like, this is the nicest, coolest mattress we've ever had. And now, it is not the same. It has. Nope.
You got like a 10-year shelf life on these mattresses. There you go.
It served its purpose, but that mattress has reached this point. There's even like little indents on where we lay, and there's some little drool marks over here, and we need a new mattress. we need a new mattress.
Go to Denver Mattress. No, I don't work there anymore. They don't get any free shout outs, but thankfully got a call back from Prairie State Bank. They were looking for a branch manager. Thankfully, they didn't really. You can teach banking. They really needed someone to lead the branch, take on the management role, have good customer facing skills, all of that stuff. So, went in, interviewed, everything went very well because I'm just hitting my 5th year there now. So never in my, I had some interest in accounting in high school and just the business aspect of things, but never past that point did I think, I'm going to land a career in banking.
Do you see a future there? Are you like, I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
retire there? Are you like, if for the right opportunity comes up, you would gladly pivot? Are you like, I'm pretty happy as customer service. There's money, there's opportunity, good work culture.
Right. Yeah. They have all of that. They've been nothing but great to me. A lot of banks, there's a glass wall. Like if you don't come with a bachelor's degree in XYZ, you're probably not going to make it too far up the ladder. But Prairie State's been amazing to me and has given me opportunity to, go from the branch manager position to now I'm Treasury Sales Officer.
It's a fancy title.
It's so fancy. I don't know if I'm deserving of it.
Very deserving.
It's
very deserving.
so extra. But no, it's exactly where I wanted to go with banking. Obviously, starting off with no banking experience, like my first 2 years was just like white knuckle gripping, fake it till you make it style. Just while I learned all the bank ins and outs of, there's a lot of regulations in banking, a lot of rules, a lot of things you can do, can't do, a lot of things you need to be on the lookout for as far as like scams, fraud, all of that stuff. Obviously, the accuracy of handling people's money. Obviously, you don't want to mess up in that regard. So, the first 2 years was that. And then, our specific branch in Bloomington is more commercial business focused. That's just kind of what we're built off of. They started here, I can't remember when, but they had just a small loan office, a few guys bringing on business, and eventually they opened it up to the retail side. For those of you that don't know, that's the deposit portion of it is retail banking. So yeah, the more comfortable I got more interested in the business aspect. I absolutely love working with small business owners and just getting to know them. Obviously to start your own business, it takes a great amount of passion, and just like diving into those stories as I'm meeting new people is great. And to be able to help them make kind of more, a bigger part of, the business aspect is your banking, and navigating that to make everything as easy as possible has been, an awesome dream. Yeah, I mean, I think I will be there as long as they'll have me. I've no interest in starting over at a new bank. So yeah, we'll see where it goes, but I'm in it for the long haul for sure.
No, that's fantastic. You're helping people make their dreams come true.
Go for sure. I try to.
No, I like that. I felt like you kind of bookended where you're at the bank due to a couple of technical things here. I'm gonna. We're not wrapping it up quite yet, but I don't want to get carried away. I didn't touch all the points I wanted to touch. I wanted to hear more about this 20 under 40, but
yeah, man.
You were one of the 20 under 40.
I was.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Shout out to Sarah Velasco for nominating me for that. That's kind of what you touched on, is like who you get involved in the community, you run into great people, and she saw something in me that she felt strongly enough to throw my name in the hat for it, and I made it through the process. So it was really, really cool. Super humbling experience just to be a part of that, and to get the recognition for, that's obviously not why I'm doing what I'm doing, but, the eyes and the experience were pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, all thanks to my involvement with the Rotary Club. I guess we can touch on that a little bit.
That's a great segue into that then. So you are the treasurer for the Bloomington Pub Club Rotary.
Yes.
Tell me, and that's where we met. So
it is.
I think you and I were both newish.
Yeah.
I'm still finding my place in my role in all this.
Sure.
This was so out of my comfort zone, doing elevator pitches, doing Chamber of Commerce. I was like, I was sitting across, we're not high on the hog. We're nowhere near where I want to be financially,
Sure.
but we eat out a lot.
Yeah.
We live in excess in so many areas of life. And I was like, I know there's people who are absolutely struggling.
Yeah.
I was like, we need to give back.
Definitely.
And I was like, how can I give back? And I was
Yeah.
like, I looked, I'm like, there's different organizations in town. And then in some of these sales books, they're like, join your local Rotary, build
Right.
your network. And I'm like, I see how one hand washes the other there.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't want to enter something like that, like quid pro quo, like I'm going to do this and be douchey about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the couple I talked to, like the Sunrise Rotary, sounds great, but
Oh, yeah.
I can't commit to getting up. Is it
that
once a week or whatever it is?
They meet every week, and I think it's at what, like 6 in the morning.
Yeah, it's a commitment. I get my little boy up on the bus
That's
every
what I'm
day.
saying.
Like I can't do that. And
Yeah.
then when I heard the pub club one, I'm like, well, this is right up my alley
Mhm.
because it's less pressure, it's more
Oh,
chill
yeah.
environment, but it is pub club and they meet at bars.
We sure do.
This January will be 2 years sober for me.
Congratulations.
Not sober, but not drinking.
Yeah, right.
But so that's been huge for me personally and professionally,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to get into that right now. But
Sure.
I was so interested in the pub club, and I still am.
Yeah.
And that's where I met you. And then I went to
It
the
is.
handful of them, and I'm awkward. I see a couple familiar faces,
Oh,
but
yeah.
like I'm not like, hey,
Right,
you know.
what's
And
up?
it's like I've told the story in that it's like when you're the new kid at school.
Yeah.
And then when you're like, I'm new, and like you're new, and then you meet somebody, you're like, oh, cool, what's
Right.
up, bro? And then you could be the new kids together. Now it's a familiar face. You got
Exactly.
a buddy. And that was, I
Exactly.
remember standing there awkwardly, and you're like, hey, I'm Chad. I'm like, hey, I'm Dylan. And like,
What's up, man?
we just had like, I felt like we were both the new kids together,
Oh, yeah.
and I hit it off with you. And you made me feel comfortable in a new space.
Well, I appreciate that I was able to do that because I'm equally as awkward, and especially at the big member meetings. I perform better in the smaller groups, but we are growing so fast, and I got to shout out to Andy because I think she brought you in, right? Invited you.
So during that time, I got invited to a lot of different like
Right.
this
You
club
need to
and
do
that
this,
club,
and that.
and then so many of them are. It's like, oh, you got to pay to play, or
Oh,
there's
yeah.
accountability if you don't show up. I went to one group thing, and the guy was like, oh, Jimmy's not here. I'm gonna send him an email. I was like,
Ugh.
oh, I'm not ever gonna be on the
Yeah,
receiving
right.
email if you didn't show up. Like, nope,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
out.
All shout out to the core group of founders for Pub Club. Just so laid back. They've been able to reach like a different demographic that Rotary's
I
just.
think it's like the new generation, and
New way of
big
doing
shout out
things.
to Annie Swanson and Scott.
They are the best.
I see what they're doing. They're making so much impact on the community.
Oh my goodness.
It's like I don't know. They probably don't watch TV. Their life, whatever they do with their careers, the architect and the furniture thing, like
Yeah.
they are so involved with
Oh my
giving back
goodness.
and helping.
That's all they do.
And then so again, early on in those conversations, I didn't know how to sit and have coffee. I thought I was like, I'm pitching you video. What do you do? Well,
Yeah,
I do
right.
video. You want some video work? And then Annie was literally one of my first like dozen meetings that I
Mm-hmm.
had when I'm new to this space. And I awkwardly sat there. I didn't know what to say. And then she would just chill. And she told
Oh,
me
yeah.
how her and Scott came up here and told me their story. And then I kind of told mine anxiously. And then afterwards, I felt like that didn't go well.
Yeah.
And then now when I see Annie, I'm like awkward. I'm like, she's the president of the Pub Club Rotary. She's so generous and so chill
She's
and
the
so
best.
cool.
She's
No,
the
yeah,
best.
that's why I saw them in passing downtown Bloomington. I was
Yeah.
like, hi. And they're like, hi. And I was like, why am I so awkward sometimes? Like, I'm chill. I got a great extroverted
Oh, yeah.
personality, but just sometimes I get in my own
I feel you.
headspace.
I'm right there with you.
Annie gave me some great advice when I sat across from her,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to share it because I don't want it to come out wrong, but I just remember she like leveled with me, and it wasn't salesy, and it wasn't pitchy, and it wasn't BS. She like
Yeah.
kept it real about being in this space and like expectations. I was just like, I was so grateful that
yeah.
she spun it to me that way, and I've never had a chance to tell her that. So if you're listening, Annie, thank you, and you let her know. Yeah, big
I will.
shout out
I
Annie
will.
Swanson and Scott. I got to run into you
Yeah,
guys
they
again.
are-
I got to get back outside.
They are super. The whole group's been super welcoming. A lot of members are invited in by others. I kind of just did Google research and kind of
And look
stumbled
at
my
you!
way.
You made your way in. You're like, now I'm the treasurer.
Hostile
Money Man
takeover.
Chad. Let's
Here
go.
we go. But yeah, they had a open board meeting, and I think I was probably the only non-board member to show up, and you're like, yeah, you're not going anywhere, even if you want to. We need someone to watch these funds. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm working on my second year there, so I'm still relatively new, but they opened their arms to me, and it's been just so great. And I believe in the mission that we're working on. Rotary is obviously a huge thing. They're international, but that portion I'm less interested in. I like the grassroots of what we're doing. All of our goal is obviously just to make a difference. The hashtag do good things in Bloomington Normal. We hardly look outside to send send help that way. There's plenty to do here in town, and we are just crushing it.
I see it. They're constantly doing things, and they're involved in everything.
Yeah.
And this is just fantastic. Nothing but good things to say about the Pub Club Rotary.
Since we're catering to kind of the younger demographic, it's all like sweat equity. We're not asking you to give us all your money to send to some organization. We're out on the streets, getting involved. Real quick, I'm gonna burn through just my favorite thing that we do, wrapped around, since it just happened, our golf outing, Turkeys, Birdies, and Brews. That's my favorite annual event. So we host this huge golf outing, raise the funds to provide 100 families with turkey dinners all through the Boys and Girls Club. So just wrap that up. But yeah, just stuff like that. We use any excess funds to provide meals for Salvation Army. Tonight we've actually got our Christmas party. We're doing a shoe drive to donate shoes to kids. So that sun just blasted through
this. It's Shine 309. You're talking about giving back to the community,
man,
and the universe wanted to shine their light. It's meant to be. It's elevated. We're raising the bar.
So yeah, to wrap up Rotary, I think Pub Club itself, we're not the traditional Rotary club by any stretch. So obviously we meet at bars, but you don't feel pressured to drink by any means. I think there's days where I just don't feel like drinking either. Just get a Diet Coke and hang out.
I've learned to navigate that. Still a little awkward. I ran into a buddy from high school just the other night. He's like, bro, hit me up. He's like, we can go have a couple beers. I'm like, I don't drink. I was just like, yeah, we'll do that sometime. And like, I'm still finding my place with it. Sure. And I'm not done drinking. I'm just taking a little break.
Yeah.
And then just make sure I'm leaning into responsibility a little bit more than irresponsibility. For sure. But I'm a better version of myself when not drinking. Speaking of not drinking, there's a podcast that, do you know Amy Edwards, Matt Edwards?
Mm-mm.
Red Corn Studios?
No.
They have a on the other side, something about after drinking, and it's a podcast about it. They invited me on. Similar to how I have my own fears or anxiety about doing this. They invited me. I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And she was like, yes. And then as soon as I went home, like, what am I going to do? Sit and tell you all my drinking stories from my 20s, or be all like,
you got to do it.
Like, oh, life's so good now. Like I don't know. I think there's good and bad, and you got to find that balance. But yeah, so anyway, I don't know where the heck I was going with that. Man. Well, before we get off on another tangent, I think we're going to wrap it up here. We could keep going. We could talk for another hour, but
easily.
I'm gonna have to get you out of here eventually. Man, I gotta work on my outros, baby. It can't all be awkward. Like, so now that it's over, thanks for tuning in.
Now what?
Well, Chad, this was fantastic. I loved hearing more about just what got you to where you at. Really, I didn't know you would go more of a deep dive into like.
Sorry.
You're like, no, do not apologize. I love that. That's what I want. I don't want it to be like, oh, let's talk about the bank, talk about the pub club. Cool. Have a good afternoon. Yeah, right. I want to have real conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so glad you brought up your childhood and losing your mom and losing your dad, because that's real, and that's it made you who you are.
It's not something that I talk about to everybody. I'm sure there's a lot of people that may watch this after, we send it out there. They're like, oh, wow, had no idea. But, it's time to let the story out, No,
right. That's I'm sure there's personal things that I don't want to say let slip, but conversation will lead into that.
Yeah.
This isn't polished and produced. I mean, it is to an extent, but I'm not sitting here just talking in front of a camera with, here's my 6 talking points. Like, I wanted it to organically flow, and you hit the nail on the head.
Well, thank you.
So this was a fantastic first experience, and I can't wait to reflect on this and just see what happens with it. One more time, thank you so much for your time,
Chad.
Appreciate
you, man.
This was great.
Out in this fresh gear. Next year is my best year. This year was my flex on. Like a shoe deal with a check on. Might be like a Nike with a